and today's lecture is number 11, and the title of our lecture today is Globalization and Global, Globalize, and Globalization. We will talk about it. What do we expect to learn from this lecture? By the end of this lecture, you should be able to identify the relationship between globalization and interpreting studies. Is there a relationship between globalization and interpreting or not? And then, inshallah, we will be doing some interpreting exercises. Okay? What kind of relationship between globalization and interpreting studies? Global, you know global. The globe. As people say nowadays, the globe is like a little bit. Why? Because of this globalization or globalizing knowledge. You can go into the internet, you can surface the internet, and a lot of information, massive information is available online and in the internet. So globalization. Now, the relationship between globalization and interpreting seems to be very close relationship. Why do we say that? Number one, because conference interpreting or international conference interpreting is a good example of, the globalizing interpreting. Globalizing interpreting, it means interpreting becomes a global profession. A global profession. If you are an Arabic English interpreter, and whether you were in China or in Japan or in America or in Europe, you can work as an interpreter, professional. Why? Because English is an international language and Arabic is a language of millions of people, so they require an interpreter in between. So you have this potential to become a professional. Now, why do we say professional? Because the transaction, the movement of transaction in business, for instance, politics, arts, sciences, on a worldwide scale, seems to boost, seems to enhance the role of it. In other words, because of business, because of science, because of politics, because of arts moving around the world, interpreters are becoming international, becoming really necessary. Why? Because they need communication to take place between different communities. Why? Because they want to do business. For instance, a group of businessmen leave Saudi Arabia for Japan. Let's say Japan, okay? Or Europe. And this group of businessmen, they say, okay, we are going to take our own interpreter. I know we are going to Japan, but our interpreter speaks Arabic and English, and our discussion is going to be in English, not in Japanese. Then the Japanese party, or the Japanese side, they say, okay, they understand English. So here, Omar would say, knows English and Arabic. The businessmen, English is not very good. They say to Omar, yes, okay, Omar, you are going to interpret for us what our counterpart say in English. So interpreting takes place on an international, at an international level, and the context is business, and the setting is a conference in one of the big halls in Tokyo, and business is completed because of this interpretive means. So English here becomes like a lingua franca. English becomes like a lingua franca. It makes up, it offsets here, I say, as a lingua franca largely offsets this potential need. It makes up, it compensates the need for interpreting. You see? So really, the relationship is very strong, but we have to look at the problem from another angle. Although the official language policy, English is the official language, and the interpreting policy of, especially in Europe, keeps, English as the main language in Europe, and whether they are teaching it or learning it or using it. Now, the spread of English in Europe makes English, makes interpreting like not really needed as much. Why? Because the spread of international English, the spread of English everywhere, makes the need for interpreters shrink. Why? Because everybody speaks English. See? So there is a danger. There is a danger that in Europe, for instance, the need for interpreters seems to shrink. Why? Because the main language is English, and English is becoming really very popular to the extent that everybody knows English now. So you don't need an interpreter, do you? If you, as a businessman, a Saudi businessman, he can, there are so many businessmen here who speak English really very well. So they don't need someone like me or like you to interpret for them. They go to England, they hold business discussions in English. They go to Belgium, to France, to Germany, and they hold discussions in English. So here, there is no need for an interpreter. Why? Because English is becoming so international that people communicate in English. So this is the negative side effect of globalization or globalization and interpreting. But don't worry, and don't panic. Why? Because I don't think in our lifestyle, you know, English will be the you know or so spread in the Arab world that everyone could be able to speak in English. No, there will always be a need for internet. There will always be, you know. So, but you need to really look at it from different perspectives. So this is the globalization. A good point and a negative point if you look at it. Now here, why did I say don't worry? Because there is something called local. There are certain issues. You cannot globalize, but you can localize. In other words, when a delegate comes from abroad to Saudi Arabia, they bring with them their globalization issues, but they need to localize, as the IS here, localize. Localize, it means you need to train people in both directions, the global direction and local direction. And in this case, you need to really refer to English as a language that brings people from different languages and backgrounds together, as I did last week or a couple of weeks ago. There were people from Africa, from Europe, from Asia, and they came to attend a conference here at King Faisal University relating to the sustainability of camel production. The camel industry is something local, and people from different nations, different languages came to the kingdom. Here you need English. Global views, local context. So they say, all right, well, we have different people, different scientists, but all of them speak English. I mean, some of them speak English, some of them don't. But they speak different languages. So the language we use is English. So there was a need for an interpreter to interpret for these people, different languages, different nations. So what happens? That happens in translation or interpreting between one to many. So you need to have this understanding of globalization, to bring in global views to local views. How? By means of liaison. It means relating, bringing them together, and this would help you, as an interpreter, achieve your task more efficiently. Now here, when meetings are held, and English is the only spoken language in those meetings, and you want to interpret in English into so many so many people coming from different nations, different languages, you need to think of issues relating to power relations and cultural adaptation. So in this case here, you are an interpreter in the kingdom. You are interpreting in English to many people coming from different languages, different language backgrounds, and different cultural backgrounds. Here, you as an interpreter, and as an Arab Muslim interpreter, they say that you are influenced by your local culture, by your local political power, and they say this might affect your interpreter. But why? Because you are influenced by the ideologies, by the cultures, by the ideas of your home country. So you shouldn't be. You should be really fair, and you should be unbiased as much as you can. So all what we have been talking about is an evidence, a manifestation, and the manifestation of the relationship between globalization and interpreting. For instance, if the presence of China and other Asian countries and their presence not only in Asia but on the international stage, even America is being influenced by the Chinese and Malaysian and Hong Kong, appearance on the international stage. And this appearance and this dominance has some effect on interpreting studies. And this, for instance, could be either positive or negative. Therefore, this increase in this growth in the number of interpreters, is a sign of this internationalization of the profession. So people who are training interpreters take this into account, and they try to bring together, all the challenges, all the differences, and all these cross-cultural issues, closer to home, and integrate them in interpreting programs, whether they are in form of linguistic discipline, or foreign language teaching, or even bilingual studies, in other words, interpreting or translation. So really, globalization is affecting, the profession of interpreters or even translators. Globalization is also evident in the movement or migration of people, from one country to another. And you go to England or to even here in Saudi Arabia, we have a multi-ethnic and diverse society. So we have Arabs, we have Indians, we have Filipinos, we have English, we have American, we have Germans, we have French. We have so many people, you know, and this is the spice of life. This is like they say, the spice of life is to have this diversity. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال وخلقناكم شعوبا وقبائل لتعارفوا. We have created you different nations so that you meet and get to know each other. You know? So this is the spices of life, and of course, you know, we benefit from each other. We help one another, and all this helps in creating jobs, creating new training needs and new policies, you know, new researches. I'm talking about interpreting, you know, why? Because we are talking about the relationship between globalization and interpreting. Okay? So this is a bit of theory. I mean, it is important always to have this theoretical background for any practice. Now we move to an exercise here. Interpret the following into Arabic. One paragraph. What happened to Louise Woodward? ماذا حصل للويس Woodward? In February 1997, a British nanny, Louise Woodward, was charged with the murder of toddler Matthew Buchanan. في شهر فبراير 1997 مربية بريطانية تسمى وودورد تم اتهامها بجريمة قتل طفل يدعى ماثيو بوكانان. Prosecutors alleged her mistreatment caused the fractured skull that killed the 8-month-old, and amid the late publicity she was sentenced to life for second-degree murder. المدعي العام اتهمها بأن سوء معاملتها للطفل سببت بكسر جمجمة الطفل فقتلت طفلا عمره 8 شهور، وحصل ذلك في دعاية كبيرة لأنه أطلق حكما بالسجن مدى الحياة لتهمة جريمة درجة ثانية. But on appeal, the verdict was reduced to involuntary manslaughter and she was free. لكن بعد الاستئناف خفف الحكم إلى جريمة قتل غير طوعية، وأخيرا تم الإفراج عنها. This is just a brief interpretation for this paragraph. Again here, interpret the following into English. إذا أردتم قضاء عطلتكم في واحدة من أجمل مدن أوروبا, if you want to spend your holiday in one of the best or the most beautiful cities in Europe, فلا يوجد خيار أفضل من مدينة ميونخ. There is no better place than Munich city, the capital of عاصمة ولاية بافاريا الألمانية, the capital of Bavaria state. وتعتبر ميونخ أكثر أمانا من المدن الألمانية الكبيرة الأخرى. Munich is considered the most the safest city in among the German largest cities. فواحدة من كل 3 ألمان يتمنى أن يعيشوا فيها، وذلك لأنها تتمتع بمستوى معيشي راقي. 1 out of 3 Germans wishes to live in it. Why? Because it has high standard of living. Okay. كما أن المدينة محاطة بالتلال الخضراء والبحيرات المضيق الصافي والحدائق الجميلة التي تحوط فصل الشتاء إلى عالم كوني يأتي من الإبداع. The city is surrounded by green hills and clean, pure lakes and beautiful gardens where which changes in winter to a world of imagination that takes you away out of the city. أما جبال الألب الساحرة فلا تبعد سوى نصف ساعة عن المدينة. As for Alps mountains, or as for magnificent Alps mountains, you know, they are just half an hour drive from the town. وسواء كانت درجات حرارة منخفضة أو مرتفعة فإن ميونخ تمثل وجهة سياحية رائعة في كل الفصول. Whether the temperature is high or low, Munich is a place for tourism throughout the seasons of the year. This is very brief interpreting, but the idea is there, and the immediacy is okay, you know. So this is just an example. But don't worry about the exam. The exam, I mean, the questions. I can't really examine you interpreting orally like this. But what I would do, I would give you you know, the choices, you know, I mean, options, and 1, 2, 3, 4, just like creative translations, a mixture of theory and practice. Okay, so, and I have included some other exercise for you to translate and to interpret. Now, I would like to thank you very much indeed again for listening and watching me, and inshallah I'll see you next week. Thank you very much indeed.